Happy Halloween, Hoosier Nation. Basketball season is here. Guys, it is 1 week until Indiana hits the Assembly Hall floor Monday night, November 6th, to take on Morehead State in the regular season opener. This is our last podcast episode before college basketball season starts. And so, with one exhibition game down, one exhibition to go, and then a regular season opener to go, we felt this was a wonderful time to preview the 2022-23 season for Indiana men's basketball, where the Hoosiers are ranked number 13 in the preseason AP poll. But we're not going to ramble and talk on end about boring things. We're going to ask a burning question for each of the scholarship players on this roster, and so much more here on episode 270 of the Hoosier Sound, where we're the official podcast of Indiana HQ. Our mission and goal is simple. We want to bring in-depth analysis and coverage to Indiana University sports across a multitude of modern platforms. We are recording this edition of the Hoosier Sound on Monday, October 31st, 2022, where I am your host, Nithin Krishnan. Here with me tonight are my normal co-hosts, Matt Lukens and Charlie Mason. Matt, our first exhibition in the bag. Let's recap it real quick before diving into each player on this IU roster. A 78-42 win over Marion, where the key standouts were Malik Renault, Race Thompson, and Logan Duncombe. I don't know if you had that on your bingo card. What did you see in that victory for the Hoosiers on Saturday afternoon?
I mean, to be fair, Marion is a very short team. So I feel like that probably could have been on your bingo card. It's not the craziest thing in the world. I would like to add another name to that list. I think Jalen Hood-Schifino was very good in his debut.
Steady. Yeah.
I also really liked what I saw from CJ Gunn.
Yes.
So there's a couple other standouts from this scrimmage other than or exhibition, other than just Race Thompson and Malik Renault. But I will start with Malik Renault because, again, I believe he was the high scorer in the game with 14. And I thought he looked very impressive. Again, it's against lesser competition, to be fair, but I thought he looked very impressive. I thought what I saw from him was a very athletic guy. And normally we've seen very athletic bigs come into Indiana and they're very reckless with their body. It's just like they're not fluid. He's just smooth, right? He's just a very smooth athlete, and even at his age, right, he just looks very well put together. He looks like he has complete body control. I think the best example of this is he just took the ball. I believe it was in the second half, it might have been, or late in the first half. I don't particularly remember when I saw this happen. But it kind of took the ball from outside the three-point line, put it on the floor, drove it, got some contact, and finished. And that to me was extremely impressive. Again, he's a guy 6'9". He's more of a power forward / center hybrid. And if he can do that, that's very impressive to me. And especially against Marion's quick, smaller guards, like he had the confidence to kind of just put it on the floor and be like, you can't take this from me, and just drive it and finish. I really like that. And then his hustle on the boards is just going to be such an asset to this team. Because again, when Trayce went out last year, I talked about this last podcast. When Trayce went out last year, we had no rebounding.
Yeah.
If Trayce and Race were on the floor, we had very little rebounding outside of Geronimo. And now Geronimo's got a partner with him to kind of help that out. Because Michael Durr was not the best backup in the world.
He was a Zach Edey specialist. That's who he was.
That was what I was saying. I was like, outside of the Purdue game, which bless them for that.
Both of them.
Both
I mean,
them.
Indiana, again, guys, lost in the last second, essentially, in West Lafayette last year, So, frankly, Indiana matched up both games pretty well.
But outside of Zach Edey, he didn't do very much else. Now we got a guy that might do a lot other than with Zach Edey, but that's when Logan Duncombe comes in. We can talk about Logan Duncombe in a bit, but because he looks much bigger and more and stronger. But I was really impressed with Malik Renault. I'm gonna leave Jalen Hood-Schifino for somebody else to talk about because I really like what I saw from him as well. But again, both the freshmen looked fantastic.
Nice. You're facilitating this podcast just like Jalen Hood-Schifino does. Charlie, you were there. You were on site along with the thousands of Hoosier fans that were at Assembly Hall for this game. It was a scrimmage against an NAIA opponent. Indiana was always going to win by a billion. What stood out to you though, and what caught your attention in Indiana's exhibition win?
What caught my attention? Let's start with the positives. Matt, took a lot of the big key takeaways. Malik Renew went crazy. I didn't expect it from him. I didn't expect him to
Me
start.
neither.
I didn't expect Jalen Hood-Schifino to start, and we saw both of them. I will say though, there was a lot of chatter among IU fans here on campus that the margin they won by wasn't big enough. Which I was kind of confused about. I was like, have you seen basketball? 78 points is a lot. And they were like, yeah, well, I believe that this IU team can do a lot better than the performance they put out on the floor that against Marion. I'm not disagreeing with them. I just was confused and kind of hyped me up a little bit that the IU fans are this passionate and this confident in the team that they saw on Saturday. But back to the positives. Jalen Hood-Schifino. I've never seen a freshman come out and play with the maturity that he did on Saturday. Mike Woodson talked a little bit about that. He said his transition from high school to college has been incredible to watch, and it's been easy. That was the thing. That was one of the things that Mike Woodson talked about. It was easy because he didn't have to coach him as much as he has freshmen in the past, or first years in the past, considering his career in the NBA. Same thing with Malik Renew. We saw a lot of the chemistry between those two, which I think is important moving forward as an IU program. Having that big man front court, back court relationship is extremely important. And we haven't really seen something like that from from the IU basketball team in quite. I mean, we saw that Xavier Johnson and Trayce. There's chemistry, but this is different. These guys have played together before. They're playing together now. They both showed up as all-stars in this game, and I think that's something IU fans should be excited about. I think Logan Duncombe showing up was extremely important. It was a big motivator for him over the offseason. Like Woodson said, like Duncombe said, he had trouble not playing as many minutes as he wished that he could have gotten last year. Worked hard in the summer, put on some weight, came back, got a double-double. So I think that IU fans should expect a little bit more of Logan Duncombe out on the floor. CJ Gunn brought some energy to the floor. Oh my goodness. He came out hot. He was ready to play. Overall though, I think IU, they played well, they scored. Their defense could have been better. Again, their perimeter defense wasn't great. It's also because Marion put up, I think it was over 25 threes.
Yeah, they put up 34 threes on Saturday.
34 threes. I don't think they made very many of them.
They did not.
Against high caliber, high 3-point percentage teams, locking down the perimeter is going to be important moving forward. And I hope that they take that into account. I know that Mike Woodson definitely will if it becomes a problem later on. It's just it was exciting to watch the team start off a little sloppily, even though it was a 10-0. They went on a 10-0 run right off the bat. You could see the gears turning, see the team starting to figure it out. But it's definitely an exciting showing.
Yeah,
the team looked better in the second half, I thought. When they came out from halftime, it's kind of like they shook off all the rest. We're kind of like, okay, let's kind of just run through our sets now and let's get out of here. And to the people that were confused at how IU almost doubled up the score on Marion, I thought we didn't score enough. You do have to realize we were without not only our best player, but probably, in my opinion, our eventual third best player in Tamar Bates. So, like, what else do you want?
Matt,
what do you want more do you want?
IU basketball fans, come on now. You've done this for 270 episodes now.
I know, but come on, man. Come on.
The important takeaways for me, Jackson-Davis and Tamar Bates were inactive for this contest. Precautionary measures. I would be surprised, frankly, if they played in the second exhibition later this week. And the deal is, this is why you play these games, right? You know, if TJD doesn't play or if Tamar Bates doesn't play, it opens up a team high 33 minutes for CJ Gunn. And there's no consequence to it. This game does not, regardless of the psychological aspect of a result, just ask Louisville, who lost an exhibition game. Just ask Kentucky, who not scraped by, but looked ugly against the Missouri Western. The thing is, it does not matter on your win-loss record or your, I think more importantly, your computer metrics as it goes into the NCAA tournament formula. These games do not make a difference. In that regard, CJ Gunn has a chance to play a bunch, and we saw some good things out of him. I thought maturity was a good word to use there, Charlie. I thought Jalen Hood-Schifino and Malik Renew and CJ Gunn all showed that. I thought Indiana largely showed a disciplined approach to the game. No one was playing out of their shoes. I think the one exception you could say is Xavier Johnson, who started the game 0 for 7. And I think that raises an important question that we'll be discussing throughout the season. We're not going to answer it tonight, but just when you have 10 playable guys, how long is the leash for any of the players on this team if they're having a bad game? I think that's something that Mike Woodson and the staff will have to figure out. Trayce Jackson-Davis will always be on the floor. Outside of that, not really sure. But overall, Indiana
you're not sure that a 13-point per game scorer from last year is going to be on the floor.
I don't think so. I really don't. If you're going 0 for 7,
who shot 38% from three? You're not sure. You're not
if you're
sure
going 0 for 7, we saw some bad
with
games for
Jalen Hood-Schifino. We have to remember
because
there's somebody to replace.
Thing. You know, if it's Xavier Johnson having a bad game, you can play Hood-Schifino and Tamar Bates. If it's Race Thompson having a bad game, you can put Malik Renew in. If it's Miller Kopp having a bad game, you have Geronimo or some other options there. Geronimo is really he's a utility player at this point, when you think about the skill set he brings to the table. So at the end of the day, you win by 36. Most importantly, no injury concerns as far as what came out of that game on Saturday. So now Indiana has another exhibition coming up on Thursday night against St. Francis, and then a regular season opener on November 7th. So guys, let's dive in here. It's time for our full scale 2022-23 IU men's basketball season preview. Again, the Hoosiers number 13 in the preseason AP poll, Big Ten favorites. I don't think there's really much of a caveat you have to put to that. Illinois is in contention and a number of other teams, Michigan, Purdue in contention. But at the end of the day, Indiana's the favorite, and Trayce Jackson-Davis is the preseason Big Ten Player of the Year, preseason AP All-American. Arguably, it's a two-headed race between him and Hunter Dickinson as far as the best player in the Big Ten is concerned. Expectations higher than ever. Let's start with Trayce Jackson-Davis. The burning question I have for him is, does he put together a legacy-defining season and end up as Indiana's most revered player in the post-Bobby Knight era? At the end of this year, do IU fans look at Trayce Jackson-Davis either at the same level or at a higher level and look at Yogi Ferrell and Victor Oladipo? Matt, I'll start with you first.
The only way they do that is if A, he becomes top 2 in scoring, which is possible, I believe, statistically. And then the second way he does that is if he leads this team as a captain to a Final Four. That's really the only way. Again, those Indiana teams, especially Yogi Ferrell, we want to talk about him, and always the all-time leader in assists. Both those teams were top 5, top 1 in the country with him on it. Twice. Trayce hasn't really had that level of success yet at IU. The Oladipo Zeller teams, both again 2 years in a row, were top in the country, beating number 1 teams,
ranked number
part of the watch shot, Sweet 16. Like they had a consistent level of success, right? Trayce hasn't had that. He would have had the tournament his freshman year. Let's all be honest. The last 2 years have been pretty lackluster. And so now we're sitting here kind of being like, okay, you got to prove it. But he does have a chance, right? If he brings IU back to the Final Four this year, and wins a Big Ten title, like I think he will be absolutely thought of as the best player that's played since post night for the team, and that includes DJ White, who was fantastic. People forget because Dan Dockich ran that team into the ground. People forget. If we didn't run into Syracuse, I mean, Oladipo and Zeller would be on this list. Holes would be on. Like, there's a lot of people that should be talked about, right? As players that have been really good since Bobby Knight. We've had some really good teams.
Yeah,
we've had the 2002 Final Four team, right? With
Dane Fife, Tom
Dane
Coverdale,
Fife,
Mike
Tom
Davis
Coverdale.
leading the way.
Yeah, yeah. But like at the end of the day, like Trayce, has it all to play for still. As far as his legacy goes at IU, and that's actually a lot to say because a lot of players that come in and look like you just know from day one that they're not going to be up there, right? Either they're gone too fast, like Romeo Langford or Noah Vonleh, or things just don't work out. Like we were just talking about it before, like Clifton Moore, or insert any other recruit that just has not worked out. In Max Montana. You insert like these guys weren't going to become all-time greats at a program like IU, but Trayce legit not only had a shot when he came in, but now he statistically and just legitimately has a shot at being one of the players that people talk about when they talk about Indiana basketball 40 years from now, right? So that's all for him to play for. Obviously, that's a huge motivating factor, but that's also a ton of pressure that comes with it. So I'm interested to see how he deals with that as the year goes on. What happens when he has a bad game? Like we've seen him have bad games before. Does it take a toll on him? There's a lot of storylines going through this year that just revolve around Trayce Jackson-Davis. That's not including the other 13 players,
12 guys,
12 other players plus walk-ons on this roster.
Or the head coach or the conference, right? I was thinking about Jackson-Davis as well, and just the one wrinkle he has going for him compared to some of the other players we talked about in this tier is a lot of the off the court stuff, right? You think about NIL being part of college basketball now, and the fact that Jackson-Davis can loudly sort of announce himself to the community more than ever. You think about how the Big Ten is kind of vulnerable this year, and you wonder if Indiana can take advantage of that. You think about how Jackson-Davis is playing for an NBA contract once he leaves Bloomington. There is a lot of interesting variables as it relates to Jackson-Davis's season coming up. Charlie, my question to you is this: if Jackson-Davis puts together a season like he had last year, which is 18 points, 8 rebounds, and 2.5 blocks per game, is that a good season for TJD?
Yes. Here's why. There are so many more pieces in this year's program than there were last year.
That's a really good point. We'll dive into that in a sec.
Yeah. There are a lot of players, even in the exhibition that stepped up. It's an exhibition. We don't know if that'll translate to regular season. But I think that Jackson-Davis's numbers staying the same, even going down a little bit, it's not unexpected. If anything, it's a show of good faith that the team is moving in the right direction. That the team, that's the most important part, is moving in the right direction. I don't know if that is going to make him the most revered player post night. I think that, like Matt said, it's going to come down to the accolades that the team get as a whole. It's not going to be decided by finishing as Big Ten Player of the Year, AP poll, whatever. None of that matters. The next year, everybody forgets about it. The next year,
they don't forget Final Fours at Indiana. That's for sure.
That's true.
They don't. Yeah.
But Jackson-Davis's numbers staying the same, going down, is arguably what this Indiana team needs. So that's how I see it.
Indiana's not made an Elite Eight, let alone a Final Four or national championship. It's 2002. That's the dark mark on the program right now as Indiana tries to get back to that level this upcoming season. Charlie, let's go into Xavier Johnson here. Indiana's point guard, okay, rough exhibition, doesn't matter, frankly, unless it does. But we'll find out as the year goes on. What's the best case and worst case scenario in your mind for Xavier Johnson this upcoming season, given that we have Jalen Hood-Schifino in the house, but at the same time, Johnson was a critical component of Indiana's run to March Madness last season.
I think the best case scenario for Xavier Johnson is retaining his starting spot over the season, rebounding from this exhibition game, finding confidence in Jalen Hood-Schifino, being able to say, "Hey, coach, I need a break," stepping out and letting Hood-Schifino take the reins for a little bit. I think that showing that level of trust with somebody as young as Hood-Schifino is important. And if Xavier Johnson can, I'm going to use the word maturity again, develop the maturity to realize this in times that really matter. Best case scenario, Xavier Johnson steps up as he's not a captain, but is a captain without the label. Being able to motivate others around him as effectively as possible, taking games like the exhibition where he might not have done as well, might have underperformed in his own terms, and being able to look past that, focus on the next game. Worst case scenario for Xavier Johnson, he isn't able to recover from this exhibition. Jalen Hood-Schifino's talent, or should I say energy, and the hype building around him gets to him.
Yeah.
He doesn't start. He kind of loses his head. I don't see this happening, but I really think that if Xavier Johnson's going to have a successful season, if IU's going to have a successful season, it's going to need a successful Xavier Johnson, and that comes from being able to work with the new guys, keep the same mentality as he had last year. Fighting for something, fighting for a March Madness spot last year was, and this year it's going to be fighting for a deep run. And being able to adapt. If Xavier Johnson can adapt and focus on making new connections and the new weapons that the team has, building a relationship with Malik Renault. They both like, Xavier Johnson likes driving.
Yes.
If he gets that dish off in time to Malik Renault, it's just small things like that. If Xavier Johnson can work on it, if he can unlock some of these new skills that are going to be enhanced by the new players and the new roles that these players have to play, I think Xavier Johnson's going to have a heck of a season. So,
Matt, I mean, last year on this podcast, we called Xavier Johnson Indiana's most indispensable player. Indiana simply did not have that much at point guard behind him. And so with Jalen Hood-Schifino in town, best case and worst case for Xavier Johnson in your mind, just as far as the season is concerned?
I mean, best case scenario is he becomes the best point guard in the Big Ten.
Which
I
is
think
gettable.
that's it's very gettable. It becomes the clear best point guard in the Big Ten, and then also makes his teammates better. Like I feel like the best case scenario is that he doesn't score 13 a game. He scores like more like 11, but he ups his assist total by like 2. I think
he was already at 5, but
yeah. So I think he goes up to 7, like 11 and 7. He's gonna be because there's guys on this team now that can score. Like Renew's gonna score. You can get easy assists with that. Trayce obviously is gonna score. Race looks like a much better jump shooter. He's gonna score more. You're gonna add in wings that can now shoot the ball off the bounce, off the dribble, and cut. And you have another dude who's very unselfish, just like you, but is also, a pretty decent has a pretty decent basketball IQ and Jalen Hood-Schifino. So you're gonna get opportunities for either back cuts, off of screens, curls, like all that stuff. Like they're gonna run for Jalen Hood-Schifino, and guess who's gonna have the ball in his hands to make those plays, and that's going to be Xavier Johnson. So he's a guy that I look at to be more of a distributor. And last year, I believe he was like top 1% in the country in like creating open looks. Just like Indiana just didn't have the shooters to knock them down. If Indiana can just, again, do what they did in the scrimmage, and they don't have to all have to be dead-eye shooters, but just as a team, as a unit, shoot the 3-ball pretty well, that's fine. And like you saw it in the scrimmage, they shot 40% from 3 in the scrimmage, and it's like one person took one good three here and they made it and they didn't take another one. And then somebody else is 1 of 2. CJ Gunn is 2 of 3. Race Thompson's 3 of 4. Like, they're not taking 10 threes. They're taking 2 or 3 and they're making those the shots they take, and spreading the offense around is very viable for a team that goes about 10 deep, right? I'm more interested to see how he does when he has Tamar Bates out there, again, a guy that can go create his own shot, and how does he set up a guy like that? And then obviously they're returning pick and roll duo with Trayce. So again, I think he was real rusty on the scrimmage. I'm just gonna throw that scrimmage away. Like, I don't even think it really even matters. And to my point, also, Jalen Hood-Schifino is fantastic, but Jalen Hood-Schifino does not have the just the utter speed that in the fast break that Xavier Johnson brings. As a team that wants to pride itself on defense, using defense to create offense, Xavier Johnson is indispensable, right? Indispensable, especially when it comes to creating fast break opportunities and creating offense off of turnovers. So I have a feeling that even if Jalen Hood-Schifino is the best freshman point guard that we've seen in the Big Ten in the last 15 years, I still think he's going to play second fiddle to Xavier Johnson just because of how good Xavier Johnson is and fits in the system. Now, worst case scenario, again, I think with what Charlie said, is that he's a hothead, he loses his mental, and he wants to leave the team, right? Because he's not getting as much playing time as he would like. Again, I don't think that happens at all. This is just utter and total speculation. This is
worst case.
I'm basically writing out, a fantasy that is not going to happen. But it won't happen. But like, that would be the worst case scenario. I'm not even going to spend time talking about it. But I think the best case scenario is actually way more likely, is that he becomes the best point guard in the Big Ten, and he becomes that second lethal player on this team behind Trayce. I mean, he was really good last year, and a lot of people nationally just don't recognize him. 13-5 for a starting point guard is incredible, especially in the Big Ten, and what he did on a team that had just terrible like floor spacing, and he still managed to figure it out. And he shot 38% from 3 on a team that he desperately needed shooters, and he was much better in the second half of the Big Ten schedule when the season's supposed to get harder.
Right.
So again, chill out. He's fine.
Yeah. Chill out. Look, I think that's that. I think the best case scenario for Xavier Johnson to me is if he's a 40% three-point shooter, which you may say this is ridiculous, but in the last 2 months of the season, he shot 41%. So this Indiana team that is in desperate need of a knockdown three-point shooter could very much use Xavier Johnson's services as a knockdown three-point shooter. And I think the worst case scenario personally is if he puts Mike Woodson in that awkward position where Xavier Johnson is just good enough to get 30 minutes a night, but just inconsistent enough to where you can't rely on him. That's where I think things get very uncomfortable for this Hoosier team. We'll see how that progresses, I should say, over the course of the season. Matt Miller-Kopp is an interesting figure on this team. It's either him or CJ Gunn or Jordan Geronimo, if you really want to stretch it. As far as that small forward position, that 3 on the court. Last year, Kopp averaged 25 minutes per game and 6 points per game. He also knocked down 1 3 on 3 attempts. It rounds out to about 36% from 3. Over or under, just overall on those numbers from last season?
I think he plays less minutes.
You think he plays less than 25 minutes this year?
I think he plays around 22. However, I think he takes more threes.
Okay.
I think he probably plays 22. You said he took about 3 a game. I think he probably takes about 4 or 5 a game this year. As a more volume shooter, just kind of chilling in the corner, just waiting for
kick out option, right? Yeah.
Kick out option. Or a guy that can get you a bucket off a pump fake. Right? We've seen him do that before. He tries to do floaters too much, but that's beside the point. He is a guy that can get into the lane and kind of get it mix it up there. So I kind of see him taking more shots this year. just on less minutes. I think he's just going to be a guy that's going to come in with the first unit. They'll probably get him a first shot, like one shot in the first 4 minutes before the first timeout. Then he'll probably sit for 4, and then the next 4 minute stretch, he'll probably get another 2 shots or whatever. And then if he's feeling it that day, they'll probably get him more shots for the rest of the game. They'll probably play him more. If he's not feeling it by the end of the second media timeout, they're probably taking him out, putting in CJ Gunn, or trying to put in Trey Galloway, or somebody's going to fill in that spot, because there's a bunch, Tamar Bates. Like, somebody's going to fill in that spot there, and is going to have a good day on this team. That is the one good thing about going 10 deep, 11 deep, or however deep Indiana is going to go, is that
13.
I mean, they really, like, how good is it that our 13th man is Anthony Leal? Like, on a lot of teams, like, you don't have a very useful 13th guy.
You're right. Yeah.
And this team is deep. They just have to play and execute well in the half court, and this team is going to do as well as it possibly can. Right? Like, I think, like, the sky's the limit for this team if they can just execute in the half court.
Charlie, same question. You see the 36% from 3, 25 minutes, 6 points per game last year for Miller Kopp. Over or under on those numbers?
I'm gonna go. I really don't think he's gonna get 25 minutes a game.
Okay.
I'm gonna agree with Matt. I'm going under 25. I think he's gonna be a lot more. I think he's gonna be a big role player, like he was last year. But I think he's gonna be functional for 3-point only. I think Mike Woodson recognizes his perimeter shooting abilities, and I hope that he's made a correlation between last year's 3-point numbers and Miller Kopp's, 3-point percentage.
Sure.
I think that he's going to score more points per game. I think we'll see that bumped up to maybe 8 points a game, 7-8 points a game. Honestly, he could go either way. He could score more. He could score less. I think it just depends on Mike Woodson's game plan in terms of how desperate the team is to shoot the 3 ball. They're so good right now, and they have so many players that are so good at getting 2 points that it kind of you kind of question, do I need a 3-point? Do I need to establish perimeter shooting if in a game where we're winning by 10 and the drive is working, the floater's working? Do you need to bring in Miller Kopp as a perimeter shooter? So I think all those questions, I think the over-under is going to be answered early on in the season. I think we're going to see a lot of what we're going to see for the rest of the season in the first couple of weeks, especially in that UNC game. Is that at the end of November?
Yes, end of November, correct.
That UNC game is going to be the game plan. If IU wins that game, we're going to see that game plan for the rest of the season. That's my prediction, even if it's close. But I think in that game is when you start seeing Miller Kopp upping his numbers in terms of minutes played, because it's against teams that force you to go outside that Miller Kopp is going to become useful. And that's against top 5 programs. That's against top 10 programs. It's against ranked programs. It's not against teams like Marion. No offense to Marion. But I think that when you can use the paint as a bully pulpit, I think that Mike Woodson's going to take advantage of that. When you have Malik Renew killing it down there, you get TJD back. I think it's going to come to the team, going to come down to the team. I think for the first couple of games, Miller Kopp's numbers go down. High stakes games, they go up. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I have him actually have more minutes this year and a lower 3-point percentage. My thought process with Kopp is he stays on the floor because he can shoot, and I think they're gonna try to squeeze out more attempts per game from him, and I think he's gonna make less as a percentage. But I think he's gonna stay out there as a beyond the arc 3-point specialist, and he's got experience, and I think Woodson's gonna lead into that. But again, I think the percentages go down, but just the quantity of 3-point shots go up. And I don't know. That might be a source of frustration for IU fans this year, but I just see more playing time coming up in Miller Kopp's future. Race Thompson, Charlie, his 3-point shot was hitting against Marion. Is he Indiana's best 3-point shooter right now?
Yes, he is. I'm gonna give you a straight up answer. Race Thompson is the future of the 2022-2023 perimeter shooting. I am so happy that he was able to shoot the three the way he did. Mike Woodson made the funniest comment in the post game. He said something like, "Oh, I've got it right here. Oh man, he loved the fact that when he came in, everybody told Mike Woodson that." That Race Thompson couldn't shoot. They're like, he said, this is the quote. I was told he couldn't shoot threes, and now hell, he's a player. I think it's funny that even Mike Woodson, the past coaching staff, was telling him, hey man, don't let him, like, he's not great, he's not consistent. And Race Thompson clearly took that personally, worked on it in the offseason, and showed up against Marion. I mean, again, it's Marion. I don't want to draw too much from that game because
I don't know though. The willingness was there and the accuracy was there. I think that
you're absolutely right. Him getting confident after taking the first three, I saw him hesitate a little. It took him a while to get comfortable because IU went 0 for 3 on threes, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, well, more the same. And then Race Thompson hit a 3, and then Race Thompson hit a 3, and then Race Thompson hit a 3, and it was magic. That's exactly what the team needed. I don't know how he's gonna I don't know how he's gonna play. I don't know how Woodson's gonna play him this year. I think that's a good thing that we don't know how Woodson's gonna play him, because the other teams aren't gonna know how Woodson's gonna play him. I think he's gonna become a secret weapon. Which I don't think Race Thompson ever expected to become. As a captain, you'd think you have a defining role, but I think with this team, IU can be flexible with how they play him.
I agree.
But right now, Race Thompson is the 3-point shooter for IU.
I like it. Matt, do you agree with that? I mean, pick and pop option all day. Good luck stopping that, Sean Miller.
I wouldn't go as far as say that Race Thompson is our 3-point threat, but
why not? I mean,
because he just hasn't shown it consistently.
I know. That's true. I can't dispute that, but
I can't
6'8"
also
sniper, baby.
Counter argument.
The NBA is here.
Counter argument to myself. I can't argue against you that it hasn't changed over the offseason, right? Like, I don't know how many years we've sat here on this godforsaken podcast I've been doing and talked about, maybe this is the year that insert player develops a 3-point shot. It's like, and then insert player doesn't develop 3-point shot. To be fair, Race Thompson is one of those guys that has steadily improved as the years have gone on, him shooting threes. He didn't take threes, then he started taking threes and then making them. He started making them last year, but then he took too many, I thought. And then now this year, he looks like he's making them. Maybe he takes the perfect amount. Maybe it's the perfect transition through 4 years of a player blossoming and becoming a fantastic 5th year on campus for him. 5th year on campus. Like, maybe that's what happens here. And I hope that does, because if he does become a 3-point threat and a consistent one, this team's ceiling goes from, the top of Assembly Hall to the ceiling is the roof.
Nice.
Thank you. But no, I mean, seriously, they become Final Four national championship contenders if Race Thompson can spread the floor, because then 4-out offense with Race Thompson, his ability as a high-low guy, and then 3-point threat from the corner, Miller Kopp 3-point threat from the corner.
Let's go.
Insert whoever you want to play next to Jalen Hood-Schifino, I guess, because we're canceling Xavier Johnson after one scrimmage, I guess. No, I mean, like, Xavier Johnson, and Hood, and then you have or Trayce in the middle. Like, that's an elite offensive lineup in the half court, and then you add in the fact that they are going to be elite on the defensive end, because Race Thompson offers you so much on the defensive end. If he can stay out there and be not even a force offense, a threat. If he can be a threat on offense, this team looks so much more dynamic than what it is now. So I liked what I saw from the scrimmage. That was great. I'd like to see more of it in the next scrimmage. And then I'd like to see him go 3 or 4 for the rest of the year. I hope Race Thompson's the first 75% 3-point shooter in the history of college basketball. I'd be so happy if that was the case.
But
it won't happen. But if he takes good looks like he did
that's what I'm saying.
On Saturday, all of a sudden, I think that becomes very doable. He could totally become a 40% 3-point threat if he just takes good opportunities. And last year, he would take bad opportunities, and then he'd have a good opportunity, he would hesitate. He did not hesitate at all on Saturday, and that was fantastic to see. So I hope to see more of that from him in the future. He will not be the main 3-point threat. I hope to God he's not the main 3-point threat, because that means A, Miller Kopp sucks, B, CJ Gunn's not playing, and then, Jalen Hood-Schifino and Xavier Johnson take, a step back shooting, and then all of a sudden that's Race Thompson's our 3-point threat. But I think it'd be one of the guys the teams are worried about. All of a sudden, it opens up way more in the half court for Indiana, and especially for Trayce.
What I'm saying, and look, Race Thompson has added something to his game every year, and it's exciting to see someone step out and, I don't know, take 3 per game and knock down 36%. And I think we have something there. Look,
it's possible.
I'd laugh, but in the NBA, we see guys all over the league start knocking down threes in their 10th year.
He can put up Miller Kopp numbers, and I'd be fine with it.
That's where Mike Woodson comes from, and he says, "Look, if you're gonna be the occasional stretch four for us, be my guest." And so I think this is here to stay. Not the 75%, but I think the 3 attempts a game. I think that's happening. And you're just going to have to swallow that if you're uncomfortable as an Indiana fan. I think the pick and pop is going to be an option going forward. It's time for our weekly podcast poll here again. We're going to answer a burning question for the remaining 9 scholarship players on this Indiana men's basketball team. And we asked all of you just a big picture question over on Twitter at the Hoosier Sound. How far does Indiana go this year? Well, the winner, 59%, is Sweet 16 Elite 8. So
I'll take that.
The majority of you say, hey, Indiana, it's a team, should make the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. If they don't make the Final Four, no one will curse on the message boards and on the social media. Okay, we just got to pace ourselves here. But the ride starts as early as next week. 1.6% of you feel like Indiana's going to miss the tournament. So, folks, here's the deal. If you want to find us on social media or wherever, if you'd like to subscribe to our podcast for free, all you have to do is search for the Hoosier Sound. Wherever you listen to podcasts, stay up to date with all of our information by following us on Twitter at Indiana HQ and at the Hoosier Sound. If you enjoy our show, leave us a review. That part's important, guys. Tell a friend, share our links. That kind of support really helps us grow this podcast and reach more passionate IU fans such as yourself. We're not a big newspaper, not a big TV station. We're agenda-free. We just want to bring the best coverage to all of you folks. So please help us in that process. Matt, Trey Galloway is an interesting piece here. I know everyone is grateful for his defensive intensity, for the energy, and for the rebounding and the facilitating he does. But at the end of the day, he shot 21% from 3 last year, 6 for 28. What's acceptable this year from a percentage standpoint for Trey Galloway?
31. Just lower 30s, I think. Because the guy is not going to shoot 40% from 3 after shooting 22% the year before on 28 takes. That's not going to happen. But I think if he doubles his takes and then increases his percentage by 10, I think that would be that would earn him a significant amount of playing time. 30% shooting Trey Galloway is a really, really good piece to have on your team. Because then again, if you're shooting anything above 30%, people have to guard you in perimeter. Last year, teams did not take Trey Galloway seriously when he touched the ball at the top of the key open for a 3-pointer. They just knew he wasn't going to take it. They knew he wasn't going to take a step in and take a long two. They knew he just wasn't going to shoot it. He was going to try to facilitate it, move the ball, and pass it around to get to somebody that could make a shot. But he did show in scrimmage. I thought his one 3-pointer he did take, he made, and it looked good.
Step back off the dribble.
And
good recognition. Yeah, smooth.
Good recognition.
Like,
It was
in the flow.
everything about it was in the flow. It was the correct shot to take. He recognized it. He took it with confidence and made it. Like, I think a lot of times last year he would take a 3-point shot and he did not know if he was supposed to be taking that shot. Didn't shoot it with confidence, right? And I'm sure his dad, who's a coach, was like, just confidently take the shot. If it's a bad shot, your coach is going to tell you that was a bad shot and why it was a bad shot later. But just confidently take the shot. If you have an open look and you think you got it, just trust yourself, right? And so, again, he did that in the scrimmage of course, against Marion. You can't go too much into it, but it did look good. He looked confident, and I like that. And a more confident Galloway going this year, because we know he's pretty confident driving to the lane. He does it all the time. He's pretty confident dishing the ball out, and in defense, if he can become a confident shooter, all of a sudden he kind of, again, takes some minutes away from Miller Kopp. What I was saying, he's not going to play 25 minutes this year if Trey Galloway is able to spread the floor even just a tiny bit. So there you go.
Yeah, I think even I'd frankly settle for 25% from downtown. You're talking about someone who made who took 28 threes in 20 games last season. I like your point though about just taking them. Just take them when they're in the flow of the offense. If you can take a couple per game, again, it's just that threat makes such a big difference. I know a lot of people may snark at that, but it's just human instinct. If you see your guy that you're guarding take a couple threes, you have to respect that shot, even if they don't go in.
Indiana played what, 32 games last year? 34?
34, yeah.
34 games last
35,
year.
I bet. Forgot.
35 games
This
last
team
year.
won games in the Big Ten tournament. That was unusual.
Right. It was very unusual. They won a couple games.
Yeah.
So 35 games last year, he took 28 3-point attempts. Yeah. Right. And he played in most games.
He played 20.
He played 20 games.
Yeah.
He averaged like what? Well, that's 1.5.
1.4.
1.4 3-point attempts per game. I feel like, especially since he's gonna be in the second unit to start the year.
Yeah, true.
2 a game, 2.3, 2.4 a game. Like, just take you up 1 extra shot per game. And I feel like if he takes them confidently, that percentage is gonna go up. Just statistically, it will. And I thought, again, last year a lot of his shots, they're pretty close to making it. It's just he didn't take it with confidence, so he either rimmed out or it kind of careened a certain way. If he just takes it with confidence, he probably has a better chance of not only making it but creating opportunity for an offensive rebound. So again, especially with this team, when he's going to be playing in a second unit with a guy like Malik Renew, like sometimes missing a 3-pointer isn't the end of the world, especially if you miss it close. Because then all of a sudden that gives somebody like Renew a chance to clean it up on the boards and get an easy bucket for 2.
Right,
Geronimo as well. Like, that second unit has really good rebounders for Indiana. Like, if he can just put the ball up on the rim, like, people are going to make plays. And he's going to be the point guard. So again, it's going to be his job to run the offense. So he should know when he can take a shot and when he shouldn't.
Yeah. Let's move on to Jordan Geronimo here, Charlie. He's someone that was healthy. He was available for the exhibition on Saturday. He ended up playing 27 minutes over the course of the game, had 6 points, 3 rebounds. He had a really good end to the season last year. It was a major factor for Indiana in the Wyoming win in the first 4 of the NCAA tournament. What do you think the plan is here for Jordan Geronimo this season? Race is back. Trayce is back. Renew's on the team. Miller Kopp's out there on the perimeter. What's the plan here? If you were in Mike Woodson's shoes, and speculating and putting something together for this upcoming season?
I think he's going to be a leader in a way. A lot of the questions post exhibition in the press room were focused on how directed to him. We're focused on how Malik Renew and Jalen Hood-Schifino were making their way in the team. Listen, he's not going to be a star on this team. I don't think he's going to be recognized for the contributions he's making, which is fine. I think he recognizes that, especially after being asked a bunch of questions about other players on the team. But I think it shows that Geronimo has a relationship with the younger guys that maybe Trayce Jackson-Davis and Race Thompson don't have. I think that he's kind of the middleman between the two, even though there's definitely, I think there's definitely a gap between him and Trayce Jackson-Davis, and even him and Malik Renew. I think there's definitely work that Geronimo can do to get better. But I think that if I'm Mike Woodson, I'm using Geronimo in times where IU's losing to a good team. I'm putting him out there when they're down by 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
I'm putting him out there because he's got the energy and athleticism to pick people up. When I tell you he's a leader on the court, he's a leader off the court. I think that Woodson's going to take advantage of that. He's very nice, very kind, was able to offer constructive criticism to players he was asked about, which is always a positive. So I think Geronimo is going to turn out to be the player that IU needs him to be. And that's the bridge. I think he's going to be the bridge. So even though he's in that second rotation, I think Geronimo's athleticism and his innate ability to help other people and kind of build up his teammates is gonna make him a critical part of IU's run if they do make one in March Madness.
Yeah, it's funny. By the way, I just looked this up. This is actually Race Thompson's 6th year on campus. His 5th year playing basketball, but he redshirted that first year, which was Archie Miller's first season at Indiana. So funny to think about it that way with Race Thompson. With Geronimo, I just think he's going to be a matchup option, right? In some of those games against opponents that play smaller, that's really where I see Geronimo thriving and being a legitimate 32-minute in a game force. Like you kind of saw against Wyoming last year, especially. And then you also had that piece where, hey, if someone gets foul trouble, someone gets injuries, you can plug in Geronimo easily without any hesitation. Matt, how do you see it as far as Geronimo's plan for this upcoming season?
Look, I think the plan for Geronimo is kind of like, if he can play and go and be athletic, like not like we know he is, but like if he can be even more athletic and more of a force on the boards than he was last year, and still have that 3-point stroke he has, he's gonna get playing time. Just how much playing time is he gonna get? Because it's kind of like, it all really actually depends on. Yeah, it's tough to say because it all really depends on how Mike Woodson is going to plan out his rotations, right? Because again, if he's going to do the 5 in, 5 out, and play, the first team only with the first team, and the second team only with the second team, and he's going to do that again, then I can see him getting a consistent amount of minutes. If he's going to start keeping starters in longer and then mixing in the second guy units, so for instance, they take Trayce out, rest him, so you leave Race in, and you put Trayce in, and you bring in Geronimo. But then, like, at the same time, there's like other people competing for his spot, so it's really all up to him just how many minutes he's going to play. Again, it's the same thing I said with Galloway. If he can hit shots and be a factor on defense and not piss off the coaching staff, he's gonna play. If he starts making bonehead decisions and overreaching for stuff and getting in foul trouble, he's not going to play. And, it's like a really easy cop-out answer, but it's true. Like, it's up to him to perform and execute to what the coaching staff wants. And if they can do that, then if he can do that, then, him and Galloway are going to play. But if he don't do that, then it's kind of like, well, you kind of dug the hole yourself, right? It's whatever he makes it.
Makes sense. Let's look at Tamar Bates here for a second, guys. Look, this is someone who was adjusting to life as a 5-star recruit in the Big Ten last season. He also had a baby. Mike Woodson pointed that out and said just in general, it was a tough adjustment for someone who's in his freshman year at Indiana. Now, with that transition in the rear view mirror, Matt, Tamar Bates is tabbed right now as one of the most possible emerging threats in the Big Ten. Do you think that's a fair label to put on him? And if so, is this someone who's going to be making big plays for Indiana in the Big Ten and NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I think he is going to be a game changer for IU. And I think people are not mildly, they're heavily underestimating how much of an impact he's going to have on this team in his second year. Look, like 5-star freshmen come in, and sometimes, especially guards, don't look very comfortable their freshman year. But guess what they are their sophomore year? Very comfortable, right? They understand the role, understand what they're supposed to be doing, what shots they're supposed to be taking, what shots they're not supposed to be taking. They go from playing AAU ball to playing, college ball like IU wants to play, and Woodson ball. IU has an opportunity here to create a monster in Tamar Bates. Right? He can be really good in spots. He's a very able defender. He obviously wants to defend. You watch him play. He's so active, sometimes too active. Came in as a good shooter. He showed that the second half of the year last year, again, as Xavier Johnson as well took a step up. He also did. He's a guy that can put on the floor. He's very athletic. He can finish with both hands, right? That's a dude that you can play on the wing for Indiana that IU hasn't had since, like, we talked about him earlier, but James Blackman was in the program, especially on offense, right? Like a guy that can do everything on offense from the wing position, that doesn't have really many weaknesses, right? He's a guy that shouldn't, in theory, have many weaknesses the way he played in high school. So again, that's all about getting him comfortable in the system. And again, he's a guy I think that could force his way into the starting lineup if he plays up to par, but he's also a dude I could see that doesn't play well. And all of a sudden you're sitting him and you're like, why did we even bring this guy on last minute from IMG if he's not going to play? Right. So he's a guy that, like, I know people say this all the time, but he's got that dog in him, right? He really does. He actually legitimately does. He's a very, very high level competitor.
Absolutely.
He's just got to go out and put it all together. He's got to put 2 and 2 together, because last year we saw the competitiveness, we saw sparks of it. He's just got to put it together consistently, and he'll be a major, major part of this team.
Now, I know it's always dangerous to play the comparison game, but I was doing a little research for this podcast today, and I don't know if the name Devin Vassell rings a bell for a lot of you listening, but Vassell's someone who went to Florida State, and his freshman year didn't go that well. And at Florida State, the good news is you got Leonard Hamilton coaching. You don't have to think like you don't have to act like you know everything. Right? Leonard Hamilton's there. Listen to what he has to say. So Vassell had a tough freshman year, and he averaged it was something like 10 minutes a game. He averaged 4 points a game, played in 33. Okay. And okay, whatever. It happened. Then in his second year, Vassell became a legitimate force for Florida State. We talk about someone who played 28 minutes a night and averaged 13 points a game. And the following year, he was a first-round NBA draft pick. And I'm not saying Tamar Bates is going to follow that exact path. But in a sport where freshman to sophomore jumps happen for a variety of reasons, Tamar Bates making one like this is not out of the question.
Not crazy. It's not crazy.
Not out of the question. And you saw a similar one with Trey Mann at Florida, who's also in the NBA now with Oklahoma City Thunder. You see these players making big leaps from year 1 to year 2. I don't even think Tamar Bates has to be a double-figure scorer, but he has that in him if that's what Mike Woodson's going to ask for. Charlie, I'm curious to hear yours and Matt's perspective on Anthony Leal as well as Logan Duncan. My burning question for Anthony Leal is he's not going to be in the rotation, barring injury. He's just not. How valuable is a bench mob guy to a really successful basketball team? How valuable is an off-the-court leader who brings high character to the team, who makes sure that everyone's going in the right direction? And I don't want to label Anthony Leal as something he's not. Like, when you watch IU basketball games, folks, this year, pay attention to Anthony Leal on the bench, right? This isn't a blind label I'm just thrusting onto Anthony Leal. There was a shot, I think Trey Galloway's 3 from Saturday. When Galloway's shot releases his hand, Anthony Leal's standing on the bench because he knows the kind of work that Trey Galloway's put into developing a 3-point shot. And Anthony Leal pumps his fist as that ball goes in. He's celebrating. And then you see everyone else on the bench sort of following his lead. Anthony Leal's as in tune with this entire roster. The fact is, though, he's not going to play that much. So, Charlie, given that I clarified myself a little bit there, how valuable is someone like that on your team? You can always use him in case of emergency, but the biggest value he's going to bring is as an off the court morale booster type of person.
I think that IU has a lot of, or doesn't have, they have a lot of leaders on the court. We talked about Geronimo being that bridge, Xavier Johnson stepping up as a leader. There are a lot of people on this team that have shown leadership before, but Anthony Leal being the constant voice on the bench of reassurance, of guidance, of hype, being the guy that says the right things at the right time is extremely important to a team that has extraordinary potential.
Yeah.
I don't think that Anthony Leal, like you said, is going to get much playing time, but I will say for the few minutes he got in that exhibition game, every person in the stadium stood up.
Bloomington native.
Applauded him. They loved him. They were screaming. I haven't seen that ever. I mean, I didn't really know Anthony Leal coming into IU. Didn't know him. But everybody else did. That kind of says something about the program, about the community, and really about Leal, about the impact that he's already made. Off the court, he's made an impact on that bench. And somehow he's touched the hearts of every IU basketball fan already. I think that having him is critical. Because Mike Woodson's not going to walk over every time Trey Galloway comes off the court after missing 2 threes, and he's not going to be like, "Hey, buddy, you're going to be all right. It's fine. Keep your head up. You'll get through it." Anthony Leal's got to be that guy. Anthony Leal is that guy, and I think that IU needs him.
Yeah, I mean, Matt, can you provide your thoughts there? Because again, box score wise, Leal's not going to do all that much this upcoming season, but you know, it's the Big Ten, and having someone like that, I think, makes a difference.
Yeah, he's not a bench guy, but he's good depth, right? Good practice guy as well. I think he's a dude that you kind of want on your team. And I honestly, is this his sophomore year?
Yeah, it's his
red
third
shirt
year.
Sophomore.
Yeah, redshirt sophomore.
Redshirt sophomore year. I think he'll be more of a factor next year on next year's team as more of a bench guy, and then hopefully his senior year, you kind of look at him as a senior starter, right? A senior guy that comes in and is a shooter off the bench. But you know, I think he knows what his basketball career is at this point, right? And I love him to death. But
I think everyone does. I think
I don't see him. I was gonna say is I love him to death. You can see that everybody loves him to death, but I also have to say, don't see him getting a ton of play time on this team. I think it's just too deep. There's too many people at his position that kind of do what he does, but they do more. It's just better than him. Like he's a good shooter. You haven't seen it yet, but everybody knows he is. Like we saw it at Bloomington South.
Yeah, well, we saw it at Wisconsin a couple years ago. We saw
we've seen it
against Nebraska last season at Bloomington. Yeah,
we've seen some spurts, but he hasn't been consistent, right? And again, like he's not a fantastic defender. He doesn't move his feet very well. He tries really hard. God bless him. And then also he's just like, again, he's very one-dimensional on offense. So it's kind of like there's a lot of guys that could do way more and be more dynamic. And again, that's about thing about Mike Woodson's team is trying to be dynamic. So I don't really see him getting a ton of playing time this year, other than like serious injury problems. So best case scenario for him, because he doesn't play for the team. The worst case scenario for him is that he plays a lot, because then all of a sudden there's some more problems with the team, or he just had a drastic improvement in the off season that they just haven't talked about yet.
I mean, if that was the case, we would have seen him a lot more on Saturday. Yes. I don't know anything more than the coaches know. So there's that. I do want to underscore though, like successful teams, all of them have an Anthony Leal on their team. Every single one. You need to have someone who brings that. By the way, I also forgot about his performance at Northwestern last year when almost half the team got suspended. He was not one of them. He rose above, put the team before himself, and honestly held his own for the 30 minutes that he played.
He tried his best.
He held his. I mean, he fought, man, and he was the point guard. He was not supposed to be the point guard. And so every successful team has an Anthony Leal on their team. And I need, for those of you who are aspiring to be basketball players, but you maybe just aren't quite capable of making the NBA, pay attention to what Anthony Leal does on the sideline, whether you're in person at Assembly Hall or whether you're watching on TV. I know the camera's not always on the bench, when they show the bench, like every possession, no one is more locked in than he is. And that's incredibly valuable to a basketball team. Now, the question then I asked Matt, is Logan Duncombe one of those guys this year, like he was last year, or is he a guy?
I think he's a guy. Honestly, I think he's a dude that
he's a dude. Gonna get a guy minutes. That's a dude. A dude.
He's a guy that's a dude. I do. He looks like a dude, right? He's more built.
Got a little Joey Brunk hair flow going.
Yeah, kind of. And I think that's like, you just said it. I think that's the perfect role for him. If he can come in and just be.
Didn't even mean that. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, be like Joey Brunk. Like, you're gonna put him against taller guys because he's a bit taller than Renew. He's a bit taller than Trayce, and just be a dude that tries his hardest down low. Like, gives you like 5-10 minutes just so that Renew and Trayce can gather their breath. Because again, there's a huge mismatch when we play Purdue, when we play Rutgers and Omarui, and we play Hunter Dickinson, right? I know Hunter Dickinson not so much, but Omarui and Edie are going to absolutely torture Trayce and Renew because it's just like it's their kryptonite, right? Like, it's a dude that you just can't move, still super athletic, just can't get out of the lane. And as guys that are athletic and nimble, but not exactly super powerful, right? On defense, like they can get moved around. Logan Duncombe looks like a guy that you just don't want to try to move around now. Like, he just looks chunky, which is good. Like, it's a good chunky. And so, again, you put in 10 minutes and you make Edie actually work and tire him out. Like, that's perfect. That's all you want. You foul out in that 10 minutes, that's fine, right? But you made him work for those 10 minutes. And it's not that Trayce and Renew won't make him work, but they'll make him work harder, right? So, again, he's a guy that's going to come in and he's going to play some minutes in some very important games, and I think give you good minutes, just like Dirk did last year as well.
Yeah, Charlie, do you see it the same way here as far as Logan Duncombe on this team? It seems like he's tacked on about 7 pounds in the official Indiana roster. He's someone that I think is a guy that is a dude for a little bit this season.
He's a dude that's a guy.
I would have to agree. Yeah. I think he's a guy that's a dude. Yeah. I think gonna be he's dispensable. I think on this roster. Matt, you made an interesting point with the foul trouble. He could absolutely be the guy to tire out Edie or tire out another big, especially in the Big Ten. Come in, get those fouls. Not late, but first half. Why not? Why not sub him in with 5 minutes left in that first half and rack up a couple, tell him to be aggressive, use his new 7 pounds, throw his body around a little bit, not intentionally foul people, but, tell him to have fun. And then, we saw the double-double. Yeah, use him. We saw the double-double that he got on Saturday. He's got potential. I don't think I said he's dispensable because there's so many bigs on this team that are so good, but I don't mean to say dispensable as in I think IU can throw him away. I think IU needs to use him, like you said. I think that IU is in need of big men that are, I don't want to say not as critical or crucial to the end goal, but I think that if they utilize his abilities, his endurance, down in the paint the right way, having Duncombe is going to be a positive, especially in long run games when you're running on fumes, traveling here and there. You've got back-to-back road games. You're playing twice in a week, 3 times in a week. Duncombe's going to show up as a guy against maybe those smaller schools that has a standout game. Plays 20 minutes.
And you
Scores 20 points.
think about the Thursday exhibition coming up. You think about those first 2 regular season games against Morehead State and Bethune-Cookman. What kind of contributions can Duncombe give you before the really strong, imposing, intimidating opponents show up on your schedule? We got 4 true freshmen to go, guys. Stay tuned for that. But first, it's time for Who Won the Week and our social media shout out because I overlooked that earlier. Our Who Won the Week, Peyton Hendershot. Another good game for Dallas. Again, as an undrafted free agent, Micah McFadden had his first career sack. Kyle Schwarber in the World Series. The Phillies split the first 2 games against Houston.
Game got postponed today, by the way.
There you go. I can look out my window here and I can see why. You had IU women's volleyball knocking off Rutgers to extend their winning streak to 4 before the Hoosiers lost to Purdue over the weekend. Indiana men's soccer drew number 8 Maryland 1-1. Had Indiana won, they would have been in contention for a Big Ten title. Maryland clinched the Big Ten title in that game. However, Indiana still served their 1-1 against a top 10 team. Look, IU men's women's sports doing all sorts of crazy things right now in the best way possible. Of course, we also have our social media shout out going on right now, where I wanted to mention that earlier today, Tom Allen, Indiana's head football coach, did announce that Cam Camper would miss the rest of the season due to a torn ACL suffered in that Rutgers game. Really unfortunate news for someone who I did not think we would be talking about as Indiana's star wide receiver at this point. That's exactly what he was. Incoming JUCO. We really, really cannot wait to see what he brings to the table next season at Indiana. Hopefully the recovery goes smoothly and he can get back for fall camp and get ready for that season opener against Ohio State. Can't wait. Folks, you can find us on social media. Again, Indiana HQ, as well as at the Hoosier Sound on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Matt, on Instagram, we're not Indiana HQ, but what are we?
Indiana.HQ.
That's right. Thank you for that. We continue to post new stuff there. Let's dive right into our 4 true freshmen. CJ Gunn stood out, both of you. I mean, Gunn, 33 minutes against Marion on Saturday. Mike Woodson got an extended look at him, 6 points, 2 of 3 from downtown, a couple boards, a couple of assists as well. Lawrence North High School, pretty prestigious as far as, the basketball lineage there. Charlie, the CJ Gunn play a viable role for this team this year, especially as someone who can knock down a 3-point shot.
I think he does. I think he kind of takes over I think he fills that wing spot that we were talking about earlier that Tamar Bates could possibly fill. I think he shows up as a substitute there. I don't think he's going to get nearly as much playing time as he got in that Marion exhibition. I think he maybe gets 15 minutes a game, maybe, and that's in the beginning of the season. If he proves himself, I think he can step up. Here's the thing. We saw him take 3 threes. We saw him knock down 2 of them. That's promising. He was confident enough to take all 3 of them, and he was good enough to make 2 of them. I think that as a team that needs a 3-point shooter, somebody with his athleticism and length, the dude's a monster. I think that he could be a real player on this team. If he comes in late, they need a 3-point. They need some energy. I think he's got the endurance. We saw 33 minutes of him. I think he's got the endurance. He's got the legs to keep moving. It's going to come in clutch when he's playing when IU's playing in high intensity games. So I think that CJ Gunn, his role is to be determined, but I definitely think there's a spot for him. It's either going to be, hyping up the team by being that wing player that knocks down the 3 that maybe Kopp doesn't knock down because Kopp's not in, because CJ Gunn's in, because he has more energy. I think that there are places and spots that need to be filled, and CJ Gunn is a guy that's going to fill one of those holes.
Matt, CJ Gunn, 6'6", he's got that wingspan, looks like someone who's coordinated from downtown. Is he a factor this season?
All right, here's the thing about CJ Gunn. I was not as high on CJ Gunn as a lot of people were. After watching the scrimmage, I'm a little bit higher on him, but I'm still not super high on him. So I'll make my argument here.
Okay.
I think he's a high energy guy. He has the shooting. I thought there was one play that he actually looked very good. He like went over a screen, took one dribble, and took a 3-pointer. And it was super. It was one super smooth motion. Did it with confidence, nailed it. Like net barely moved. I thought that was fantastic. That's something that this team has been missing for a while. And so if he can do that more consistently, like yeah, he's gonna get playing time. But I would like to also preface this argument, or everybody, that there's only a certain amount of playing time on this team. And he is a true freshman, and he is going to go through ups and downs. So I very much expect him to play some minutes, especially in the garbage games that we play, the cupcake games to start the year.
Let's call them cupcakes.
The
garbage is harsh.
Garbage cupcakes games. How much this coaching staff will use him will be determined to me by how much he plays at Xavier. And that's our first like real big game when we go away. Does he play at all? Right? I don't think he does, because again, you have Tamar Bates, you have to eventually promise minutes to. You have Miller Kopp, who you have to play minutes.
Geronimo.
You have Jalen Shafino, who you're gonna play. We'll get to in a second. You have Geronimo, you have Galloway. Like there's like 5 guys in front of him. So he's gonna have to do something incredible to actually get in the rotation. Which he could totally do. Like I don't think that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. It's just, well, I think people got a cool like, he's gonna be Big Ten freshman of the year, or like nobody's talking about him. We need to talk about him. Like I think people need to talk about Renew and Hochefino more than CJ Gunn. Like there's a place for him. There's a world in which I see him getting into this team. It's just that I don't think he's going to be quite ready his freshman year, but he will get minutes. I think he'll probably play against teams like Nebraska, Penn State. Like he's going to get minutes against like decent competition. He's just not going to get 15 minutes, more than 15 minutes a game.
So this is a season preview, right? This isn't a Morehead State preview. And the reason here's the thing. Like I don't see, assuming everyone's healthy, I don't see a path for Malik Reneau to jump Race Thompson or Trayce Jackson-Davis on the depth chart. Malik Reneau. No. Sorry, I'll get that eventually.
Yeah.
I do see a path where CJ Gunn, and I think this is what you were kind of referring to, Matt, like CJ Gunn beats Trey Galloway in the rotation and surpasses Miller Kopp in the rotation, and maybe even gets past Tamar Bates in the rotation if Tamar Bates doesn't break out like we expect him to. What's interesting is that in CJ Gunn's 24/7 sports profile, he was listed at 6'5", 175. On IU's official roster, he's 6'6", 194. So I don't know who's screwing it up more, but CJ Gunn very potentially could have, if he's taken, I mean, I was surprised to see how physically prepared he looked, just as far as a true freshman. There's not too much more work that needs to be done. Of course, Indiana's strength staff has probably put in a lot of effort with CJ during the offseason, but like, if he's coming in and he's proving to be a 35% plus knockdown shooter, and he, lights out, goes crazy against St. Francis. Don't want to get my Saints messed up. St. Francis on Thursday. It would be, it's already raining outside. I can't ask for much more. St. Francis, Morehead State, Bethune-Cookman. Remember, CJ Gunn committed to Indiana in February 2021. A lot happened to this program between February 2021 and Saturday. Okay. Yes. And CJ Gunn has stuck with it, and he's committed, and he's stuck, and he's just been there for Indiana. Local guy, hit some threes on Saturday, and all of a sudden I'm like, look, if nothing else, he's gonna have the popular vote. Okay. And so if he keeps knocking these down on Thursday in the exhibition, the first 2 regular season games, and then if he does get minutes against Xavier, well, he held an offer from Xavier and he chose to play at Indiana instead. True. So we'll see if that plays a role here in the early part of the season. But again, as we look over the course of the year, we see him jumping Trey Galloway or Miller Kopp. It wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world. All right, let's talk about Caleb Banks for just a second, you guys. Look, it wasn't really eye-popping on Saturday. If it was going to happen for him this year, you would think exhibition season would be the point. Charlie, do you think Caleb Banks has a special moment this year, or do you think it's a developmental season and then hey, let's get pedal to the metal the following year.
I think it's a developmental season for Caleb Banks. I don't see him fitting into this roster as easily as the other three freshmen on this team. I think it's going to be difficult for him to find a spot. I think that if he works, he's got to prove himself. I don't know how many minutes he's going to get. Probably not many.
I don't think it's many.
So I think he needs to learn as much as he can now.
Yes.
I think that's the biggest thing.
Well, Race Thompson redshirted. Remember, like this is what we talked about earlier, right? You know, sitting back a year, getting healthy, getting your physical stuff squared away. Not saying that's an issue necessarily, but there's value sitting back for a year and then bang, let's go.
Yeah, I think that that's what he needs to focus on. I don't really have much else to say. If he has a special moment this season, I think it's going to come in a game that's not against a huge opponent. Maybe he gets on a hot streak, scores 10 points in a game, and that's the highlight of his season. But we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Very, very excited personally about Caleb Banks' long-term prospects at Indiana. It's a big year. Even if he doesn't play that much, it's a big year for him. Matt, one of the interesting narratives coming out of that game Saturday was for everyone that thought this is the same team as last year, it's not. Because Jalen Hood-Schifino was in the starting lineup and looked really damn good in his time on the court against collegiate opponents. His team is different, Matt. I mean, Jalen Hood-Schifino, even when Tamar Bates comes back, do you see him starting for Indiana on opening night?
Yeah. I think Jalen Hood-Schifino is there to stay in the starting lineup. I think that our backup point guard is going to be Trey Galloway.
That's how it looked on Saturday.
I think Jalen's going to play like more of a combo guard. He's going to play off the ball a little bit, more dominant ball handling guard in Xavier Johnson, and you're going to have him kind of as a change of pace, right? To Xavier Johnson. He's more methodical. He's not exactly like as abrupt in your face as Xavier Johnson is. He's more calculated. But that's not that, you know, Xavier Johnson doesn't think about what he does, but, you know, like he just takes his time more, right? Like, there's a different change of pace in the way the two play, in the way the two see the game, and both are correct, right? So it's like both can work, and that's going to be a great way to break teams down, because you're going to have two different guys that can go at defenses and kind of in a calculated, organized way kind of go, okay, this is where we should be taking shots. I should be handling the ball more. You're going to be taking a step back here. And I think they're going to have a bit of a tug of war. And I can totally see why the staff is behind the scenes saying like this guy's going to be here for 1 year and done. Right? And that kind of the you guys talked about earlier, the maturity, right? That he showed in the game. He has a bit of a maturity to him, to his game, and to his basketball IQ and thought process. That just kind of just shows. He just looks more comfortable than most freshman point guards do at this stage in their career. So I have very high hopes for him. And obviously, I think he's going to, like I said before, he's going to stay in the starting lineup. I wouldn't be surprised if he's getting the third most minutes on the team eventually. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he's a 30-minute guy. And then, you know, like the rotation is one guy comes in for 10 minutes for him. In the second unit, most likely probably Trey Galloway. And then you more have guys taking 10 minutes from, Xavier Johnson, and then Miller Kopp's sharing another 20 minutes there. And then you could probably work out who gets the percentage of minutes where. But he just gives you a sense of security. If look, like for instance, last year, Xavier Johnson wasn't having a good game. Like we didn't have anybody to fall back onto, right? We have somebody to fall back onto if he's not having a bad game. And if Jalen Hood-Schifino is having a bad game and overthinking things and being a freshman, right? Then we have somebody like Xavier Johnson who can step up and take time. So again, I really like this. And then I've always been very adamant, even back in the day, of playing 2-point guards. Like I wanted us to play back in the days of Devonta Green and Rob Finney, them both at the same time. And I was telling Archie Miller they need to play them both. Like 2-point guards works in college basketball. It doesn't quite work in the NBA for totally different reasons. But in college basketball it works, and it works really well. So I really like Jalen Hood-Schifino on his team, and I think he will be Big Ten Freshman of the Year, and I think he will be on the freshman All-American team, and I think he will be a first-round draft pick.
Woo! First team all Big Ten.
freshman.
I know, but I'm asking, do you think he's going to be first team? Like we talked about how
he'll
guards,
be second or third team.
Xavier Johnson and
Xavier Johnson has the ability to make it on the first team. I don't think Jalen Hood-Schifino has the same ability because the way Jalen Hood-Schifino plays is more calculated. He's not going to get the statistics that he needs to get there.
I think he's going to be. I mean, he went 11-3. He had 11-3-4 on Saturday.
Yeah. I know he had 11-3.
He didn't really do anything. It was like it was the quiet.
I know it was a quiet 11-3-4. I know, but that's kind of how he plays. And again, it's quiet. So it's just again, he's not going to be flashy. It's not going to get teams on the first team, and also the first team is going to be literally all forwards and centers. Like we just know this. Like nobody's cracking that. Like Edie's going to get it for sure. Trayce is going to get it for sure. I think Cliff Omarui is going to end up there. I think Hunter Dickinson's going to be there, and then it's going to be either Chris Murray or somebody. No, like I said, I think statistically, probably Xavier Johnson has a better year. Is probably going to be that point guard guy they put on there, but he's I think automatically first team All Big Ten freshman. I think that's clear to me. And as a guy is just like really good. And just steady. That's weird to say for a freshman, but steady.
He really is. It's a great description of his game. I mean, we'll see what the ceiling is like for him. I mean, he's a prototypical new age NBA combo guard. I mean, perfect. Music to my ears. Yeah, you were talking about playing 2-point guards at the same time. I was like, yeah, shocker. What happens when you have a coach with a head on his shoulders? Like that's breaking news. When you look at the last freshman, Charlie, Malik Renew, double-double on Saturday. And here's someone who comes in with very similar pedigree to Hood-Schifino, right? You talk about 5-star, true freshman from the same high school, same academy in Montverde. He impressed, and I think he would start for a lot of teams next week.
Yep.
Matt's very opinionated about that.
Sorry.
At the end of the day, though, Renew's not going to start unless there's an injury. So, as a second unit forward, what output can we expect out of Malik Renew in his true freshman season?
Oh my gosh, I think he's going to be incredible. Obviously, the second rotation, I don't think he's going to get the starting spot. Like you said, unless there's injury, there's no way that I see that happening unless Kopp was in the starting lineup, right?
Yeah. Yep. I just don't think you can play Race. Trayce,
I think that if you develop Race as a perimeter and you try to go for a four, there's a way to do it. There's a way to do it. I'm not saying it's the right way. I'm not saying it's the right way. Calm down. I'm saying that Malik.
Calm down.
The team would not suffer if they did that. That's true. What I'm saying. Malik Renew is such a good player that having him out on the floor at any point is a positive. He makes an impact. He made an impact immediately.
Huge.
Did he score the most points? I think he scored 14.
Yes. Team high 14, team high 11 boards.
Yeah. Awesome. Mike Woodson had some good things to say about him. Jordan Geronimo had some good things to say about him. His team, him and Jalen Hood-Schifino, Woodson said, had an easy time converting to college. I said that earlier. I'm going to say it again. I said it about Hood-Schifino. Now I'm saying it about Renew. His athletic ability to one dribble from the 3-point line and somehow make it to the basket is incredible to me.
Yeah.
He's so long. He's strong. He's got some post moves. I saw a couple in and out. A little post move.
Yeah.
I think he tried a hook shot at one point. Maybe that wasn't him, but I think he tried a hook shot. It didn't work. It could have been somebody else, but it was him. Yeah, it was him. He tried a hook shot. It didn't work. I mean, it looked like a layup, but it was like a mini hook shot. But he's a player that if you're an Indiana fan, you should be excited about. Especially this season, even though Trayce Jackson-Davis is gonna right now overshadow him a little bit. I think that Malik Renew is still gonna make that, Big Ten all freshman team. I really do. I really think he's a
Okay.
standout player. Hood Schifino's great. Malik Renew showed up with, I don't think he was as calculated as Matt put it, or mature as Hood Schifino was when handling the ball. He was still playing kind of like a little backyard basketball, trying out his moves, figuring out the works of the court. But with a little bit of coaching and assistance and guidance from Race Thompson, from Trayce Jackson-Davis, even from Logan Duncombe, who's been here for a year already. He's been here for some time. Experience is number one for this kid, who's my age. I don't know why I'm calling him a kid. New. And I think that if he takes the opportunity and the advantage of the players and teammates and coaching staff that's surrounding him this year, he's going to go far. I think he's a future first round draft pick too. It just depends on when he decides, how much work he wants to put in and when he decides to leave IU. So, yeah.
Matt, Jalen Hood-Schifino and Malik Renew are the two highest Big Ten basketball recruits, according to 24/7 Sports, for this incoming season, before you get into the Sky Clarks and Jet Howards of the world.
Yeah.
It's not going to be in a starting role, but the output from Malik Renew this season, do you think, will it be sufficient to make a run at the Big Ten all-freshman team?
I think so. Yeah. I think he's going to give you quality minutes.
Yeah.
And I think in the second unit, he's going to be
Productive.
good. Not just productive. I think he's the go-to scorer on the second unit. I mean, I think Tamar Bates is the go-to scorer on the second unit. I think he's probably the secondary guy. But either way, he's going to get minutes. He's going to get production. They're going to play him hopefully a lot so that Trayce can get some rest and not be logging 40 minutes per game.
True.
Come March and be absolutely tired. Like I honestly, I think that's the reason why we lost the St. Mary's game. He was just like, he was the most lethargic guy. The whole team was, but he was especially.
Yeah, well, remember, Matt, the Big Ten, or the NCAA, I should say, made Indiana play what was it, like 6 games in 8 days.
6 games, 8 days on both sides of America on like 1 day, 1.5 days rest, and yeah, maybe was terrible. It was terrible. It was terrible. But either way, ridiculous. Trayce was lethargic for a reason, right? So I'm sitting here being like, if you can offer really good quality minutes, very similar minutes as Trayce, like all of a sudden you're going to get yourself some national attention. I do think he's going to be one of the better freshmen in the Big Ten. And I know I was talking about this, or you guys were just talking about that he'd be a starter on most teams. I was just thinking about this while you were talking about it. Like, I think he starts on every team outside of Rutgers, Michigan, and I think he doesn't start on. No, I mean on the Big Ten. Rutgers, Michigan. Yeah, Rutgers, Michigan.
I think that's it.
I think he starts on Illinois.
I think he starts on Rutgers.
Illinois Twitter would be crowning him Big Ten Freshman of the Year already. Michigan State Twitter would be saying he's the next coming of Draymond Green. You'd have Iowa Twitter would just be excited that they had a high 4-star freshman for once. Like any other school, right? He'd be the star, right? Penn State, Nebraska. It's like
I think at Rutgers he would start too. I know there's other. Yeah, I do, but it's hypothetical. Who cares?
No, he's not starting over Rudy. I don't think. I think Cliff, he'll be a first.
I think they both play.
Okay, maybe. I don't think he doesn't start as the 5 as the focal point of the team there at that position. Okay. On basically every other school other than the 3 I talked about. So I really think people are talking about it's the same team from last year. Jalen Hood-Schifino, having him is fantastic. You probably could have replaced his minutes with a lot of different other people and still been fine. Like you could have gone and found a transfer for him. There's a lot of people that could do what Jalen Hood-Schifino could do this year. There is not a ton of people that's going to give you the quality, similar play style that Renew's going to do to Trayce and Race, right? Mm-hmm. So he's a guy that you already not only know what you're going to get from him, but his teammates already are familiar with his play style. And so I I think he's going to be a extreme difference maker on this team.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, comparison game always dangerous, but go look at Cliff Omarie's trajectory. Sort of the first year was, hey, reserve. I'm going to sort of figure out life in college basketball in the Big Ten. Bang, his second year really took off. As far as his time at Rutgers, you could see a similar path for Reneau here at Indiana. Time for closing thoughts, you guys. We went through a lot. Charlie, I'm going to start with you. How far do you think Indiana goes this season? And any other comments from your end as we wrap up here on this Monday night?
I'm expecting, this is terrible to say, I'm expecting a Big Ten championship out of this program. It is an expectation.
Okay.
They have everything. The pieces already made this program somewhat successful. The new additions are inspiring, to say the least. I think that in terms of March Madness, IU is looking at Sweet 16. That's the worst they're gonna do in the tournament. I think is Sweet 16. I don't know how far they'll go after that. Honestly, post Sweet 16 is luck of the draw. I don't think anybody can predict an NCAA champion right off the gate. I don't think anybody can predict the March Madness champion after the round of 64.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm going to be able to predict how far IU is going to be able to go in the preseason. But I do think that they could be looking at a Sweet 16, a legitimate Sweet 16 run, potentially further. They have all the tools to be successful. Again, they've got to put it together, see if it works. Use that second rotation intelligently. Take advantage of the endurance of some of these young guys and the energy that they bring to the team, and the dynamic that players like Geronimo might have with the younger guys. Try and mix and match. Look at different rotations, putting in different players together, because you never know. And I think Mike Woodson's a guy that's going to try that out. So, yeah.
Matt, Indiana is plus 350 to win the Big Ten on DraftKings Sportsbook, and Indiana is plus 3,500 to win the entire national championship and raise a sixth banner. How far do you think Indiana goes this year? And do you have any other closing comments from your side?
I would say my personal expectations for this year is top 2 in the Big Ten. And because again, I think our Big Ten schedule is kind of hard. So I think we could get, that could be a factor in us, missing out on the title by like a game or two. But I think for me, like, success this year is measured not just by how we do in the Big Ten, but by how we're perceived nationally. And look, making it far in the NCAA tournament is pretty much essential to that. But to me, it's having a nice, steady season. Like I think I've talked about steady more on this podcast than I have in the history of the Hoosier Sound, but it's kind of true. Like, we're starting the season at number 13 overall in the country, right, in the AP poll. Now, I think a successful season for Indiana is got some highs and some lows, but to never actually leave the rankings. I think that for me is doable if you look at our schedule. I think if you split the non-conference games, the tough ones, the 4 games that we play, we split them 2 and 2, we should still be ranked. I would like to see us peak at a top 10 ranking, move our way up into the single digit numbers. I think for me, again, is getting Indiana a successful season is getting Indiana back to being nationally recognized and being back and talked amongst the best in the country. That doesn't mean Indiana needs to win every game or go undefeated. It just means that they need to be steady. They need to not have the mental lapses like they've had in past years and go on significant losing streaks. It means bringing your A game every single game. It means keeping Assembly Hall a fortress and winning your games at home. I think all of these are very doable. And then it also means staying healthy and doing the coaching staff doing back rotations and just having a good attitude about the season. And I think if they could do all that, then they will find success in March. I don't think that will be a problem. I think a second weekend in the tournament as a top 15 team is probably, that's expected, right? So I really am looking forward to seeing what they do this year. I want them to be steady, consistent, and just kind of have a good year so that the program has a nice building block to build upon going into next year. Yes, we got the monkey off their back last year making it into the tournament. That was great. But now we need to get the second monkey off our back, which is, you haven't been relevant. Like, you need to be relevant for an entire year and show, hey, Mike Woodson took us from step 1 to step 2. Now step 3 is going for a national championship. We need to get those people involved in the program to take us up to that even higher step. But we need to make it past step 1 to step 2, because I've seen the program make it to step 1 before. And under Tom Crean, they consistently made it to step 1.
Yeah,
they just could not consistently make it to step 2. So Woodson's got to prove that he can make it to step 2 so that we can eventually make it to step 3, which is banner number 6.
Yes, exactly. I think this Indiana team is good enough to make an Elite Eight run. What's interesting is, just looking back on recent years, you look at North Carolina, you look at Loyola, you look at Michigan. You don't have to be the top ranked team in the country to make a run to the Final Four. Okay. And so Indiana's process this year is going to be constantly building towards playing their best basketball in February and March. The worst version of Indiana that you're going to see is over the next couple of weeks. Just keep that in mind when you're watching this team. They're not prioritizing playing their best basketball next week. Okay? This thing is going to be a constant process improvement to where, similar to last year, and it was very, very late last year, they played their best basketball in the Big Ten tournament and the NCAA tournament. And that's going to be the plan here for Mike Woodson in year 2. That about wraps it up for our 270th show of the Hoosier Sound. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your support. To hear more fantastic episodes like the one you heard today, be sure to follow us at Indiana HQ and at the Hoosier Sound to make sure you don't miss any in the future. You can also go to our website, indianahq.com, to find it all in one place. But as always, thank you for listening, Hoosier Nation, and we will see you next time.
Peace and love, go Hoosiers.